John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned, because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, I want to welcome you to the Dr. Pat Show. This is a live show, a live call-in show, by the way, 1-800-930-2819 for all you all out there. I want to thank you all so much for, 20 years. And this is a special show for me. Many of you who I bumped into at Dr. Darvish's event, it was great to see you. And you all asked me a couple of questions. And at the time, I didn't have a moment to really stop and just give you the answer. Or the answer was a short one I gave you. So what happened to the Dr. Pat Show on KKNW AM 1150? And many of you have asked, how come you're only on once a month? Now, here's what I want to say. Today's show is called Unstuckable. This episode is about Unstuckable. And yeah, I'm gonna try to tie it all together. But it really starts out with looking at our lives and taking a glance at what this means. So, how many of you have pondered what the bleep happened? How many of you woke up or are waking up these days and just like in that space? You're like in that mode of what, how did I get here? What am I doing? So there's a book that just came out. I think it's a book, but I think it's actually a series. It may even be a romance novel. And there are two books as side by side. And I'm just going to share them because I don't read romance novels. I wait till they become movies because then I like to go and see them in the movie. But it was interesting when I saw the advertisement for them, and I'm not affiliated with this book at all. So I just want to say that. But there are two books by Lauren Roberts, and one is called Powerless and the other one's called Powerful. And I had this funny reaction to it in looking at both of these together. And then I thought, yeah, of course, this is a paradox of life. This is paradoxical. So when you all were talking to me at Dr. Darvish's fabulous event for her best-selling book, I mean, it's just incredible to just watch Dr. Nusheen Darvish and what she's done and how she's really come out in the world to help all of us be the best we can be the people that are healthy and vibrant. I got caught up in a word. And I want to share this with you. Today's show, as I said before, is to talk about unstuckable. Now, I want to talk about this word because it's a word that I created over 20 years ago. It's not even like a word. It's not a word. And this incredible word that popped up many years ago. Certainly unstuckable.com is the website. Many of you have seen me talk about it, 10 years ago, writing a book about it. But what happened for me about that is I forgot about what it meant on a personal level. And this is what's kind of cool about it. You know, you sit and you have expectations, but we forget the ultimate promise. And the ultimate promise is a promise that each and every one of us has. It's that promise for those of us out here that believe in a benevolent universe, believe in a world that is so much better, believe that we are here to live the promise. Now, I don't know if y'all can see this book. I think Moxie is going to try to get you to see it there, Benny and Moxie there. Okay. This book I pulled off my shelf. It's called The Law and the Promise by Neville. And so I stopped myself for a minute. And I had this moment where how can't say these words on here, but how did this kid from the Bronx, get here with all of y'all? How did I get here with you? A 20-year loyal listenership. And by the way, for those of you out there, I am going to give something away today because I'm kicking it back old school. I'm going to give a copy of Dr. Darvish's book away later in the show. But what I want to talk about is where Unstuckable fits in. Why am I talking about it? Because we're living in a world right now where we're watching people live in the paradox of powerless and powerful. And Lauren Roberts, Lauren, at some point I need to get you on my show to talk about this. But it is a forbidden romantasy. It's like a new word, like fantasy is like a word, but this is new romantasy. It's leaving everyone breathless, this book. I got to tell you, Lauren, just the two words, powerless and powerful, together in the way they're being promoted, you got my attention. And you got my attention because I understand both sides of that coin. You see, they're the same coin. They're just different sides of it. And I found myself in really, as I'm describing what Unstuckable is and going back and thinking about where it came from. You see, if you're unstuckable, you live the slide and glide of life. You see, what that means is it's like being on a water slide. And first of all, you have to like being on a water slide. If you don't like being on a water slide, stop using the skydiving analogy or anecdote, because the bottom line with that is when I bring that up, people are like, I am never jumping out of a plane. But I want to talk about this one. And so I sat here today and yesterday, and I realized, as a friend said to me, Pat, you know when you've arrived, when somebody either wants to copy what you're doing or literally take it. And I thought to my friend, I don't even understand what you mean by that. I mean, what is that about? And you see, these things that are happening in the world, if you find yourself right now thinking, how did I get here? See, isn't that an interesting question? How did I get here? What the bleep got me here? What's going on? You see, those questions come from a place of desperation. You see what I'm saying? Desperation. You know, what is it? Desperate times need desperate measures. I got to ask Moxie to help me with that one. But here's what I want to say about it. I woke up about a month ago and I had to reflect, and I wanted to talk with you all because you're probably wondering, where did I go? And I want to tell you that story. For those of you that have been loyal listeners, and thank you so much for bumping into me at Darvish's event, Dr. Darvish's event, and having a chat with me. Life sometimes asks you to step up. Now, I'm not talking about the network. I could do an entire show and talk to you about what we're doing, how we're growing, how we're expanding. But I will tell you this, none of that is relevant in the world we live in today if we're not taking care of the loved ones we have. And a year ago, almost to this date, a year ago, two amazing things were happening simultaneously. Two things were happening simultaneously. One that I felt was powerful, and the other one that I felt was powerless. And to be unstuckable, you have to be able to walk in both realms. Thank you, Greta Chamberlain, in both realms, powerful and powerless. And you see, when I talk about that, people look at me like, oh, you should not say that word. That is not like the word and the vibration. But I don't know how to explain it. Because please do me a favor, raise your hand if y'all out there. How did you feel during the pandemic? Powerful, powerless? How'd you feel? Did you have moments like we did, like I did personally? Did you have moments where you felt, I can do this, we can do this, powerful? Did you find yourself reaching out and getting the funding you needed to keep your organization going? Or were there moments where you thought, what? I've got to increase the number of offices to give people 6 spaces, set up a home. I got to get my kids so they keep their education going. See, that's why I love these 2 words today. And they are at the core essence of stepping into the unstuckable zone. Now, I will tell you that, yes, 20 years, this idea has been enacted. And about a year ago, a party literally tried to take that idea and make claim to it. How do you claim a word you didn't create? How do you claim something like that? And I thought about this, and I thought about, what do you do in a world when you feel like something has become an injustice for you? I was talking with Danusha yesterday, one of the hosts on our show. We did a great show yesterday. Please, if you go look at that, go look at what that show is about. It's about the genius within. We talked about this yesterday. But the question really is, it goes beyond that. What is it that my creator wants me to be aware of today? Wants me to be aware of all of you. You see, in the world we live in, I know the way that outcome's going to turn out. I know that the people that are out there that thinking they made that word up, I know that something's going on in their psyche that is causing them to do that. But I also know in the world we live in, I really put my faith into the goddess, the gods, God of my understanding, the divine, the creator, Ba'aula, whatever you want to pick for yourself. And that's what today's Unstuckable story is about. When you step into the unstuckable zone, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to believe? Am I going to believe that fictitious answer to how did I get here? Look, all of us have expectations. All of us think about what we want next. And I do believe that expectations are so very, very powerful. They're powerful. So rarely will you hear me say, don't have any expectations. It's one of the most misunderstood aspects of being, of your essence. And to step into the unstuckable zone means that you got to have a giant E on expectations. It's got to be gigantic. It's got to be like a giant E, expectations. Because if you don't, how do you guide your ship? You know, I was thinking about this the other day, and a friend of mine called me and said, have you gone to see the latest Mad Max Furiosa movie? And this is the prequel, and it's a Furiosa prequel, Mad Max. If you're from my generation, you know Mad Max. You know Mad Max Thunderdome. One of the greatest Mad Maxes is Mel Gibson and Tina Turner. Come on. How can you not love Mel Gibson, like that Mel Gibson, young Mel Gibson, and the most incredible woman on the planet, the best concert I've ever been to? Yes, by far, even better. Okay, I will say Pink Floyd, very close. They're very close. But Tina Turner, I miss her. I miss her. That Tina Turner is the epitome of Unstuckable. If she were here today, she'd get probably one of my first Unstuckable awards, because we're going to be giving them. I would give it to her. How do you go through life like that? But my friend asked me to go see Furiosa. And I said, no, I did. Why didn't you go? Pat, you love that. You love that. I said, I haven't got over. Okay, so this is a little me. So this is going to be one of these things where some of you are thinking, okay, Benny would say, you're like so old school. So for me, I couldn't envision, this is me being stuck. This is why I'm talking about Unstuckable now. This is me being stuck. I could not envision any Furiosa role without Charlize Theron. Do you think I'm a little stuck there, everybody? Do you think I'm like, okay? And I love Anya Taylor-Joy. The role she played in The Queen's Gambit, but even in The Menu, I mean, outstanding, right? But I couldn't wrap my mind around it. And I asked myself, why? This is at the core of whether you're stuck or unstuck, whether you're powerful or powerless. This is at the core. Many years ago, I was given a book by David R. Hawkins. And that book was Power versus Force. And it was given to me at a time where I was in early recovery. Actually, I think it was before I was in early recovery. I think it was like, I don't know, 80 something. I don't know what the year was. But I was given that book. And the person that gave me the book was trying to tell me, you need to read this book, Pat. This book is going to help you. So it's not about the book, it's about the message. And I didn't actually get to read that book until years later. When I read the book, I understood why we get stuck and what it feels like. Because what Hawkins created was the scale. So you could look in this scale. You could look at emotionally where you are. Now, with the situation with Unstuckable and somebody trying to grab that trademark, I watched my emotions on the scale. I went from having something that I was so excited about, I went right smack down that scale. I went smack down beyond what we're talking about today, right? I went down that rabbit hole of thinking about, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. It's not fair. Oh, and then I hit the reality that said, wait a minute. Am I going to believe? So what you learn in recovery, it's a very interesting phrase. If you choose to take this recovery path, this is what you learn. There's a phrase in the big book. God is either everything or God is nothing. God either is or God isn't. What are you going to believe? You see, this is at the essence of becoming unstuckable. We either have faith in the path we're on, the roads we take, the scarecrows, the lions, all of those things that hit us as we walk across the road. And we either get to flip that coin on any given day, the powerless or powerful coin, and we flip it up in the air and watch it land as if we were no energy at all about the outcomes we want in life. And that's why I wanted to talk with you. Because last year, around this time, I was on what I like to call the powerless version of the coin. And I'm gonna just share a little bit of a story because I think privacy for my best friend is really important. But a year ago, intuitively, I left a talk in Chicago, and thank you, Jim Fannin, CC Fannin. Thank you both for that opportunity last year. That talk is up and available somewhere on the internet. I think we have it on our sites, maybe on our YouTube. Powerful in that moment. And then the next hours, powerless. Because my understanding was my best friend of a very long time was very, very sick. And so for me, the decisions I had to make were not hard. I got a hold of that travel person and got myself from Chicago to New Jersey. And for that past year, while yes, the company, the network, everything is going, I had one mission really. And that was to make sure my best friend did not die. These are tough decisions, but these are the things Unstuckable is made from. What did I learn in that past year? I learned it's very difficult to be the owner of a very fast growing company on positive live streaming video. Do that and be full care for someone. So all the folks that I've had on the show that talk about care and caregiving, thank you all. Thank you all for every show you've ever done, because it's sunk in. What is it that you're looking at in your life where you're faced with decisions? Are you going to be on that unstuckable slide and glide, that water slide of life? Is that something that you can see for yourself? Is that a place that you want to be? And this, to me, is so important. So what happened when these people gave me the Hawkins book, Power versus Force? Well, certainly I had no clue at all, none, about what they were talking about emotions. But I took that to heart. And what I realized is that we can talk about emotional intelligence. We can talk about mental intelligence. We can talk about our body's intelligence. And we can talk about spiritual intelligence. But if we talk about them each as if they're their own planet, with their own sun, in their own galaxy, we're never going to get the powerfulness of their interrelations with each other when you bring them all together. This is, for me, one of the most beautiful gifts I got in the last year. And that is that we can still be in the physical world, the emotional world, the spiritual world, the intellectual world. We can be there all at the same time. But how do we protect that which is most precious to us? How do we protect our joy? How do we hold high, regardless of whether or not you don't know if your best friend's going to wake up the next day? How do we still hold that place? How do we do it? Now, the whole Unstuckable thing, I turned that over to my trademark attorney. That is out of my control. I'm not powerless. I'm powerful in that moment, in that decision to do that, because that is not something that I know how to navigate through those waters. I had a similar situation 10 years ago. I think you all heard me talk about it. And it was one of the most incredible outcomes I could ever imagine. But initially, it was just weird. I got an email from a company in China who said, we are now the Dr. Pat Show in China. And I thought, wow, this is like great. So I got an Unstuckable moment here. You ready? I said, this is like great. I'm just like having this great conversation with them. Oh, this is great. They said, no, you don't understand. We have our own Dr. Pat in China. It's not you. I said, oh. So here you are, and you have this moment. Am I going to get little and get scared? Am I going to be at the place where, here's what happened with that. I just said, look, if you have got a Dr. Pat in China, great. You see, this is a big world. This is a big universe. This is, all of us have immense power. And I remember joking about that a little bit with the individual that was communicating with me. But the outcome of that was amazing. They didn't have a Dr. Pat in China, but they did have the Dr. Pat Show.China, CN, I think it was. And they launched that. The outcome for me and the Dr. Pat Show was enormous. Even though they never had that, the impact for the show got us millions of listeners and watchers. And that's always been my goal. It's never been about becoming a broadcast owner or international host or any of that. It's how can I help people? How can I help people from where I was in 2003 when I started this? How can I help people from that point to get to where they want to be, what's in their heart's journey? And so my expectation was that desire was going to drive me forward to create something that would help people in the world. I had no idea it would be where I am today. And that's part 2 of becoming unstuckable. It's you have to be able to hold your expectations high and the outcome exactly how you want that to show up low. Got it? Expectations high, outcome low. Because if we hold on to a specific outcome, like how exactly we want that to look, you may or may not get it. You may get something so much better. To show this is what's important today. This is where we are in the world today. This is what's important. And for those of you out there, what I want to say to you is we now have an opportunity, just like that advertisement that showed up for the 2 books, Powerful, Powerless. The question is, what will you choose? Powerful, powerlessness. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about what you must look at in your life to stay unstuckable. Some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug. Some days you're Teflon, and some days you're Velcro. How do you know which you are or who you want to become? Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's great to have all of you here. Look, this is the coolest thing. So the answer to the question is, for me, in the past year, I couldn't be at multiple places at one time. And so I had to cut my airtime back way, way far. And yet I did that, but I haven't disappeared. Sometimes we have to make these decisions. I want to go back to a Hawkins quote, which I found this interesting. There are 2 things that I really love. I love to hear the essence of what people create. And Hawkins, the author of Power versus Force, this is something he said. It's really fascinating. He said, every thought, action, decision, or feeling creates an eddy in the interlocking, interbalancing energy fields of life. In this interconnected universe, every improvement we make in our private world improves the world at large for everyone. And he coupled that with creating this incredible scale. And, I have to give him credit for this. There are people that have come out and have done something similar, but it's the Hawkins scale of consciousness. And so what I love about this scale is he really looks at this and he identifies various things on it. And the lowest point on the scale, I was shocked at. See, I love the idea of talking about fear. And I am one of these people that actually did read the Dune books, as Benny would say, back in the day, read the Dune books. So I could do a whole show on what I think about Dune too, but I won't. But in that book and in the movie itself, they pointed out a quote. And it was more than a quote, it was a mantra. It was a mantra and affirmation. It was a transitional mantra to shift the mind, to the place where no pain. You won't feel pain. Fear will not annihilate who you are in your dream. And all of you know it. If you've seen the movie, you know it. And the quote by Herbert is, and I'm talking about Frank Herbert, who is the author of Dune, the Dune books. And it's a simple phrase: I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I would just want to stop there for a minute. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. You see, we've all come up with acronyms for the word fear. I've heard a million of them. When I do workshops, I have my own acronym. And I'm not going to tell you what the F stands for, but it's, I call it F everything and run, because that's what fear does. We look at our life and we say, forget about it. hell with everything. I'm out of here. We do it emotionally, we do it physically, we do it spiritually, and we do it intellectually. That's what fear does. It really plants something in us that has us blank everything and run. That's what we do. We run. We run emotionally. We may not run physically, but we're gone. We're checked out. We're little. So here it is. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. Now, when you're in the unstuckable zone, you learn how to master this. And you learn how to create whatever that signal is for you so you don't get stuck. You don't get stuck in the fear, what I like to call rabbit hole. And Herbert goes on to say, I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. Now, that's an act of courage. To allow fear to pass over you, to pass through you. We've heard about this in scripture time and time again, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, whether it's the Quran, it doesn't matter. We hear this over and over again. We've heard it. We've heard it in stories of Jesus, for example. Temptation and fear. Exactly what happened. Permitted to pass over me and through me. Exactly. Permitted to pass over me and through me. And when it is gone past, I will turn to the inner eye. What? The inner eye? And when it is gone past me, I will turn to the inner eye and see its path. Why do we want to see its path? Why do we want to watch that path? Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. See, this is the key. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I remain. That quote from Herbert, and it's in the Dune books, if you're interested in those. It's also was in the movie, but it wasn't fully expressed the way it was written in the book. But can you imagine when the fear is gone, there will be nothing, only I will remain. But not the I that you think, the true I, the authentic sense of yourself. And that's the essence of becoming unstuckable, to be in the unstuckable zone. You see, it's not a matter of whether you're always going to be Teflon. It's not that. Teflon is that surface that you put something on and it slides off. And being stuck isn't always Velcro. See, the key is what I said to you before. It's paradoxical. It's like looking at God either is or God isn't. God is everything or God is nothing. And this is the God of your understanding, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what religion. I'm talking to your creator, higher power. It doesn't matter. But the question then becomes, how do you do it? Is understanding fear enough? No. For me, last year, actually the past couple of years, I have had to teeter-totter back and forth. I've had to make some business decisions. I've had to decide what's going to be important today that I can still enact the vision that brings to all of you what you've wanted for 20 years. More shows that talk about prosperity, possibilities, relationships, addiction now. We're getting ready to launch an addiction channel. All of these things. And it's been such an interesting dance between powerful and powerless at different points in time in my life. But I'm no different than you. And I'm sure you've done that dance. Some days it's Latin music. Other days it's going to be a waltz. And for those of you out there, Hawkins doesn't even put fear in the bottom of his scale. That was the eye opener for me. See, I thought fear was everything, but it's not. So what is it that gets more of a hold on you and me and all of us that really keeps us stuck? So the bottom of his list is so important because I know I relate to it and I know you all relate to it. Anybody that has ever been in addiction and recovery relates to this. And his book was about that. So it didn't surprise me later in life when he put shame at the lowest point of his scale of consciousness. Shame. Right there. Right above it, a notch, guilt. And he talks about the emotional state. So here's my message. These are the things you want to look at. When I work with individuals, especially in the coaching programs I do, I don't go after fear. That isn't the thing that really holds us back. You know, it's something that is always there. But shame is that thing that makes you feel humiliated. It makes you feel you're less than. It makes you feel that you've never really ever going to snap out of it because, of course, you've done something maybe, or you've not done something. And right above it is its friendly bedfellow, guilt. And when you put guilt and shame together, you can't even use the affirmation from Herbert's book on fear, because fear, by the way, is 4 other categories up. And we don't talk about this. We want to give fear so much attention and power. So today, what I want to say to you is, in this world, you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to be stuck. You want to go to the highest levels and hold those expectations for yourself in life. Enlightenment, peace, joy, and love. And believe it or not, below that are the things that will get you there. And they don't get talked about enough. Courage. Courage is high up there. Willingness, acceptance. See, these are the things that help us move forward. The minute I got to the place of acceptance about how this trademark dispute would turn out, the minute I got there, I felt free. I felt free. The minute I made the decision to go back to New Jersey, just in time, by the way, to dedicate whatever time I could possibly dedicate to help my best friend. The minute I did that, my willingness, my acceptance. So what I want to say to all of you for today is, fear is a component of something. But in order to truly become unstuckable, you have to take a look at the rest. And it is in that quote of the interconnectedness between the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional. It is in the interconnectedness of all of those. And when I work with people in my coaching program, we do it all. If we take a look at your finances, we're going to look at all of that. And it's very difficult if you don't have a belief or trust, whether it's trust in the universe. So today, give yourself a break if you're hovering in the very stuck nature of guilt, shame. Give yourself a break, but more importantly, understand that you have the ability to rise up. That's why we're not going away, not the Dr. Pat Show, not the Transformation Network. And if you want to see more about us, you can go to Transformation Talk Radio, but we're not going away. We're a hair away from launching the Women's Channel, the Addiction Channel, and much more. And as Dr. Darvish says in her book, and I will leave you with this, if you haven't gotten her book, The Golden Gate, I'm going to give you a copy away. You can call into the show right now. Benny will get your information, 1-800-930-2819. I will give you a copy of the book. He'll collect some information from you. 1-800, what's that number? 1-800-930-2819. I'd love to give you a copy of her book, because after reading her book twice, she gave me the message I needed, and it's the following. As women in the world and what we're creating, our duty is immense. Our duty is immense. And for me, to all of you, I'm not going anywhere. If anything, we're going to be inviting you to come with us, because you're the most important thing to our network, the audience. Thank you all for tuning us in. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.